Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Friday Night Chill with Will. I'm Will, and I hope you guys are doing all right. I've been doing pretty good. We're back from a little bit of a hiatus, probably like a month, I think, or so. I can't really remember specifically, but I think it was about a month ago I put up that little hiatus video. But we're back. I just needed some time to recalibrate and reorient myself, I guess. Y'all know I am one to overthink a lot, so yeah, I just needed some time. But we're back. We out here with a new episode tonight, and we are going to be talking about something that has overtaken my life for a while now, for the past couple of years, but the newest season just came out, so I just kind of wanted to properly gush over it. And hopefully by the end of this episode, I will have encouraged one of you to at least watch one episode of this thing. And that would be Heartstopper. So this show came out on Netflix a couple years ago is when the first season premiered. And I was unaware of what any of it was. My sister actually was the one who informed me what it was, that it was like a webcomic that ended up doing well enough to get published, and then Netflix picked it up and made a series out of it. So I hadn't read any of the comics or anything like that. I just had that sort of pretext, I guess, before watching the show, and I'm pretty sure I watched it when it came out, like the year it came out, just out of curiosity. I think Love, Simon came out around the same time, or no, actually it was a few years before then, but I think Love, Victor was kind of getting its time, and so I thought it was kind of samey to that. The vibes felt kind of samey, kind of like a feel-good queer love story, and I was just like, yeah, sure, why the fuck not? And I checked it out with the first episode, and I think I ended up binging the whole thing in a day, which is actually really easy to do. This show is actually very easy to watch if that's something you're very concerned about, because I know watching a new series can be very daunting just because of the amount of commitment needed to watch something. But this show is actually particularly easy. Each season has only been 8 episodes, so that's a standard affair for Netflix, really. And it's 8 like half-hour long episodes, so it's not like an hour-long episode type of setup like most Netflix shows are, like that are like kind of semi-drama focused. But they pack a lot into the 23, 25, however much time, around a half hour of normal TV. But they pack a lot into these episodes. And, you know, from then on, the show just kind of had me hooked. And, you know, last year was season 2. And so that was a whole thing. And then this, like last month, I think at the beginning of last month, season 3 premiered. So I have been... one thing like a big critique I've seen of this show from different people, and this is just online, so, you know, obviously this is all subjective, but a lot of people say it's kind of overly positive or something like that, or just kind of cheesy, and just kind of how positive it is and how unrealistic it can be. But after watching all 3 seasons, I think the realization I've come to about this series is that it is an optimistic queer story that has enough moments grounded in reality to not make it totally fantastical. And I think that's something that I really appreciate about it, is just kind of the overall positivity, like, it exudes. And, like, this, when I say this has become like a comfort show for me, like, it's just, I haven't emotionally reacted to a show like this either in a very long time or ever. The show has made me cry on multiple occasions just because of like how heartwarming moments have been and just sort of how genuine some of the performances in it are. And I I don't know. That's to me like that's the mark of a good TV show. Just being able to get any kind of emotion from anyone, because there's so much good acting in this show. It's ridiculous, because like every character brings out the emotion that they are supposed to from you as the audience. Like you have like the bully or the just the douche, and you actually get angry at this person because you're just like, man, that person is just the worst. Or you have, the main character Charlie, who gets bullied a lot. Like you really empathize with his struggle and his mental health journey, because a lot of the show focuses on like the ramifications of bullying and all of that stuff. And it's all just done really well. And I have just been down a rabbit hole recently. I've been watching all kinds of videos and reactions about the series. And this third season in particular, I think, is probably the strongest of the 3 seasons. The show has easily gotten better with each season. The first season ends kind of abruptly. It's sort of like ends in a way where it's like there's a lot of loose ends, and so season 2 does a good job of kind of like tying up all the loose ends, and then it starts deepening the characters a little bit, and then season 3 takes these characters and just sort of adds another layer of depth to all of them, and it definitely hammers more serious subject matter in the series that they allude to in earlier parts, but they touch on them more directly in this season. So just a warning, there probably will be spoilers just because I've seen all of this, but hopefully it won't deter you from actually watching it, because I think it's again, like I said, it's a very easy watch and it's just so good. Going back to what I was saying earlier about this being like a positive sort of queer story, it's just sort of refreshing, if I'm honest. Like I feel like so much of queer media is it depicts the struggle of being queer in any kind of environment, whether that be good or bad. But it is often depicted in a way where it's like the struggle. Like it is like a struggle, and like there are all these bad things that can happen to you once you come out. And not to say there isn't any positive representation in media, but I just think oftentimes when it comes to queer people getting these stories, you don't really get to see the joy that these queer people get to experience. And I think Heartstopper does a very good job of capturing that in all different forms, because there are so many different types of characters in the show. I know a big critique of the show is the story centers around 2 white characters. But the thing of it is, like, the other characters in it that are people of color, I don't believe they're shortchanged. They don't seem like they're shortchanged to me, because like they get their own development and depth to them as well. One of the characters, Elle, is trans, and we get to learn about her journey a little bit, and just sort of like her evolving relationships with the people in her life, and just sort of her transforming into the more real version of herself. And then you have Tara, who is like the very intelligent person who's a dancer, and she's got her girlfriend Darcy, who just is sort of the loud one of the 2, and so Tara's the more reserved one. And it's just, I don't know, it just does a very good job of like giving everyone their flowers and their own like time to shine in the show. I don't feel like anyone really gets shortchanged. I can only maybe think of like one character that like they don't delve into as much, and they just kind of like bristly go over a lot of her stuff, and I think it just might be a time thing, just because there are so many characters, and so obviously we can't always get the amount of detail we want with everyone. But I don't know, man, like it's just such a good story, and just like telling the experience of like someone who is coming to terms with their sexuality and like figuring out what that is, and like it's so raw and it's so real appearing. Like the way it happens just seems real. It doesn't seem like fantastical. And you know, I think these positive stories, these positive tellings of these stories are like as important to have as like the bad ones, because we all know that being queer comes with its own set of struggles and you know, all the hardships and stuff. And you know, a lot of times it can, in media, it can make it seem like being gay is this always going to be this struggle that everyone has to overcome, and I don't think that's true. I think, you know, allowing yourself to be queer and just experience the joy that comes with that is beautiful, and it's great. And I know that, you know, you can't obviously ignore the ignorance and hatred that is out there, and that will likely, you know, come for you eventually. But I don't think it always has to be the centerfold of every story that we tell. And I say that, and because like this series, there are struggles to being queer that are presented in the show, but a lot of the stuff that happens is more so a result of the actions of the people who aren't straight. So like in season 3, they talk a lot about self-harm, and Charlie having an eating disorder, the main character. And they really like sort of gave it to you in bits and pieces, and like they eased you into it. And then season 3 is sort of where like they fully explore why he does it, and you sort of find out that he has these things or does these things because of the bullying he experienced when he was outed. And you know, it takes him to some really dark places, and I that's what I think I enjoy about the show, is that it's able to have that balance where like 1 minute you'll be crying because like something happened on screen that was just so beautiful, and then the next moment something totally heartbreaking happens, and it's really just like this emotional game of like table tennis. It's pretty insane how they're able to do that, but it's just so great, and it's such a joy to see stories like this being told. And you know, right now we don't know if there's going to be season 4. The show got, after season 1, the show got renewed for seasons 2 and 3, but Netflix hasn't confirmed whether or not they're going to do a season 4. But the creator of the graphic novels, who is the head writer of the TV show, said she does have something for 4 seasons of TV. So if the show ends, she has something for season 4, and she wants that to be the ending of the TV show. As far as the graphic novel, I'm not too sure. I haven't actually read the graphic novel yet. I don't really want to, if I'm honest. You know, I might check it out after the show definitively concludes, just because, I don't know, like, if it's the same writer working on both things, I would rather see one completed story thing first, because I don't know if the comic is still ongoing. I think it might be. So I would rather just, experience one facet of it first and then delve into the other thing. So we'll see what happens there, but I really hope it does get renewed for season 4. Just to end it, to put a nice little bow on it. I think the way it ended with season 3 was like finite enough where you could be like, oh yeah, they all lived happily ever after or whatever. But there were still some loose ends in there that they didn't really get a chance to resolve or whatever. But if it ended there, I think it'd be fine. But yeah, man, it's so great. It's such a good show. I'm trying to think of like which character out of everyone is my favorite, and I guess I would say Charlie, just because I do find myself sort of being. I find myself relating to him probably the most, just because of, at least I relate to him as the 16-year-old version of myself, because obviously I'm 31 now, and the character is supposed to be like 16, 17. So very different, experiences. But I do, sort of see all of the struggles that he is experiencing, and just sort of think about how I experience those things. Luckily, my experience with like body dysmorphia or anything like that never really led to like self-harm or anything like that. I'm very fortunate that I never really had that experience. I never really experienced with self-harm or eating disorders or anything like that. But I was picked on a little bit in high school. More so when I was younger. I just kind of kept to myself. And so I kind of see that side in Charlie. And because Charlie is actually able to be like so expressive, and he's actually very confident underneath like everything that his brain is telling him. And I really think the show does a very good job of like showing his support system. Like Charlie in this show has a very amazing support system, like from his friends to his sister to just about everyone in his life. His parents are kind of useless, if I'm being totally for real, which I guess is kind of, yeah, I get another thing I can kind of relate to. But yeah, I don't know, I see a lot of the person I've become because of like who I was then in Charlie. And so yeah, it's just really good. It's just so good. The performances in the show, like I said earlier, are probably some of the best I've seen on TV in a very long time. Literally, I have watched so many scenes multiple times and will tear up at the same part each time, just because it is just as impactful as the last time I put it on. The other main character, Nick, there's a scene in season 1 where he's coming out to his mom as bisexual, and I have seen that scene over and over and over again. Between actually watching it and seeing a bunch of reactions from other people online, and every single time it just hits the way it needs to. Kit Connor and Olivia Colman just do amazing in that moment, and they say everything just in the most idealistic way that is just like, man, it could just be that simple. And I wish it could just be that simple for so many other people, because for some people it is. And I think that's something people need to keep in mind, is that the framing of this show does tell, the story of modern queer children. And so there are a lot more parents now who are more receptive to having queer children. that's not to say there aren't a fair share of homophobes in this show, because there are a handful, but I think that's an important facet that people need to think about when they're watching the show, that it is supposed to be a story about modern children, from around, the 2020s, like in high school, and just their experience as queer people. And it's just, I don't know, it's so cool to see this show, like, show such a strong community of support for each other, really, because, like, yeah, they're all there for Charlie, especially in season 3, where he's going through his thing with self-harm and having an eating disorder. But there's so many moments where all of the friends, everyone in the friend group, shows up for each other in different ways, and it's just very well done. And it makes me very envious, because I'm just like, God damn, a lot of my friends have sucked, because, like, I don't remember ever being this invested in other people, and really makes me want to try harder with the friendships I have now, to just make sure I do show up for people in a better way than I used to. Because I think I definitely could have been a better friend in some moments, but yeah, I don't know, man. This show's very good. I cannot recommend it enough. All 3 seasons are on Netflix. It's, I think, 24 episodes total. Each episode is like less than a half hour long. Like, they don't do like the double premiere type of thing where episode 1's like an hour. No, they don't do any of that. Each episode's like 30 minutes, so you could probably blow through the whole series in like a day, if that. But yeah, if you have not watched it before, I highly recommend it. I'm writing for Nick and Charlie forever. They make me believe in love again, if I'm being honest. It is funny, because, like, I watch this show and I'm like, man, am I just like a sap? Am I just like a romantic or something? Like, am I idealizing this too much, where I'm just like, yeah, I don't know if that could ever actually happen, but I don't know. I think the show, like, because obviously, like, it's TV and it's very romanticized and it's very driven up for the drama and all that stuff, and I don't think queer love can look exactly like that, but I do think it gave me this different view of it than what it has been that I'm, like, currently experiencing. And sort of like what I mean by that is just kind of like with hookup culture and stuff, and just like hooking up with people is just kind of like not a thing I'm into. I'm not even really interested in dating at the moment. I had a talk with someone earlier in the week about this. I'm just, like, not interested in dating. But seeing stories like this, it's just like, I probably should try. And then if I do try, I do want to actually try. I don't want to just, like, have a bunch of conversations that are, like, open-ended and then have nothing arise from them. I want to be able to talk to people and, I don't know, just have that dating experience and just sort of, like, being romantic. I think a lot of people in queer spaces kind of, like, roll their eyes unnecessarily at being romantic, and I think a lot of us, just because of the damage that the trauma we've experienced, we just sort of write it all off and just assume that stuff like that can't happen to us. And I don't think that's fair to any of us to think that. I think we should believe that we are capable of finding love in some kind of form, and obviously it's not going to look like it does on TV, but I think we could all stand to be a little bit more romantic, and I think shows like this are a good reminder of that, of just not to take things so seriously and just to sort of like feel things and just sometimes go with those feelings and see what happens. So, but yeah, those are my quick little thoughts on Heartstopper. Again, if you have not watched it, please go watch it. I need someone else to talk to about this show. I would be forever grateful if you did. So, and if you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comment section down below, and or just send me a DM on Instagram or Blue Sky or any of the other social media places. But yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there. So it's good to be back, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did enjoy it, go ahead and leave the episode a thumbs up if you are on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe so you can see more episodes of Friday Night Chill when they come out. You can also follow the podcast on Apple Music or Spotify, and leave a comment on Spotify too. That's a thing you can do on Spotify podcasts. Let me know your thoughts on the show. If you want to keep up with me anywhere else on the internet, you can find me anywhere at Willie J. Co., except for on Twitter, because that's a bot now, so that's super fun. But yeah, that's going to be it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time for another Friday Night Chill.